All right, welcome back. I am delighted to welcome Sheila Holm again this afternoon. Sheila, thanks for being with us. What an amazing few days, both here in Georgia and across the country. What do you think?
I love it. People keep saying there's nothing happening. You just can't say it anymore. You just can't say it anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, we have such great things happening because now in Minnesota, he's making Minnesota the template, and he just did something really phenomenal.
There's a very interesting video you pointed out. You want to begin with that, and then you can fill us in. How about that?
Yeah, if you share the video, then I'll tell you what the video is about. It's really exciting.
All right, here we go.
Voice of the Lord, saying, "Whom shall I send?" And I said, "Here am I. Send me."
All right, I'll turn the volume down on here. Why don't you fill us in on what the impressions were coming out of Minnesota?
Okay, this is so exciting, guys, because that's the 187th Infantry. But here's a message from our president. I sent the VP to Minnesota to try and calm the waters and reach an understanding with the governor and the mayor. They declined to help. I sent Tom Homan. Remember, he said he's going to come back with a great report because that's Tom Homan. He always reports. And so he's going to come back with a full report. So I sent Tom Homan, with 40 years of professional experience, awarded the highest possible award by President Obama, asked him to reach an understanding with the governor and the mayor. They declined to help. So now I'm sending David Gardner. He's going to go up there. I'm sure he'll reach out to the governor and the mayor to hear their views. Then he'll do what he thinks best. Who is he? I should have been more expansive on my introduction. I just love the president. He is Major General David Gardner, commanding officer of the 101st Airborne Division of the United States Army. They will arrive in helicopters. And as you could tell by the video, they weren't just going to land the helicopters in a parking lot and then just kind of get out and walk around and see how things were going. They're coming down in the midst of it on the ropes right off the helicopters. And that was 187th. And remember how he said, I'm using Minneapolis as a template. So any of the rest of you cities out there, this is what he can do. And everybody goes, well, has he filed an insurrection? Is he going to file an insurrection? We don't have to file an insurrection. The insurrection is being done on us. We're not going to file an insurrection against our own people. We're not going to. That's what they did before the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln, they told him that would resolve it. You go into an insurrection, you cause the uprising, it turns into a civil war. It doesn't stop until hundreds of thousands are dead, like more than 700,000 in the Civil War, lost their lives, and then realized we're not winning anything. We're not doing anything. We're just our guys are dying. So they stopped and went home. They were starving at that time too. There was no funding for any of this, except from We the People, and We the People weren't going to fund to keep killing each other. So it ended. And that's what we do not want. This time, we're not just going to battle out things. We're going to come to peace globally, which is what the president is doing. We're going to come to peace in this nation. We're going to come to peace with our neighbors. It's amazing what he's been doing. Today, he's meeting with the president of Mexico. And he said, no, we're doing so good communicating with each other. We're going to start spending some time in each other's countries talking to each other. So he's going to go down and do a diplomatic meeting down there. She's going to keep coming back here and doing. Same thing he did with Zelensky. He's resolving things and bringing neighbors together because the issues that everybody's fighting over has to do with the fact that we've all been under somebody else's control and we don't have peace or freedom or liberty, or we've been enslaved. We've been in America. It's been a captured operation from the very beginning.
That's right.
Before president ever raised his hand in 1789 and took the oath and put his hand on the Bible. I mean, we've been there, you know what I mean? And now all these other countries that were trying to warn us, now they're realizing we get it. So now that we get it, we have to reach out to these neighbors, and everybody's like, well, the president's turning his back on us. No, he's not. He's uniting us because they've divided us to fight against each other. And they did it to these other countries, Mexico, Venezuela, Colombia, Cuba, to fight against us and drug our people and be mad at us because they think we're the ones destroying them. Iran thinks Americans are destroying Iran. Americans have not been behind any of this. Our money has been used for all of this, but we've not been behind any of these wars. And the president has already snuffed out 8 of them, and he's not going to let one happen because that's not what's going to heal this nation. It's not going to be what heals the world. What we have to do is come together and unite together because that's how we can defeat them. Us being divided is how they're able to conquer us. That is what has to stop. That's why you keep this up. You don't cooperate. I sent my best guys to come and help you. Okay, now I'm going to send another way. And now you're going to have to deal with them. And that's why it was so phenomenal the way he did the wording. Let me just look at this again. So now I'm sending David Gardner up there. He's going to reach out to the mayor and the governor to hear their views. Then he'll do what he thinks best. He already knows what he has to do. So who is he? I should have been more expansive in my introduction. Major General David Gardner, commanding officer of the 101st Airborne of the United States Army. They will arrive in helicopters. So this is a template. You keep messing up in these cities. You keep coming against our people. He's not going to put up with it. Yeah. And people forget he's commander in chief. They forget that.
What's fascinating to me is you look, you mentioned all these different countries and all the different things that are in play right now. The people are reaching out saying, hey, we like President Trump. Yeah, the people of Greenland, we'd love to be part of the United States. There's the deal for them could be just amazingly wonderful. And yet the powers that be, the globalistas, as one of our good friends likes to refer to them, want to stand in the way. They want to talk about all the reasons why this is wrong, shouldn't be being done. President Trump is overstepping. He's trying to foment violence. That's not at all true. He's giving the people a better way.
The Prime Minister of England sent a note out and said, Greenland should be controlled and led by Greenlanders. So the president answered back, and Britain should be led and controlled by Britain. So you want them to have their own freedom and their own leadership. Britain needs the same thing. They've never had it. They've never had freedom of that in England. So then what happened is when the president said, when he took us out, since I've seen you, he took us out of WHO, he took us out of WEF, he's restructuring, there won't be a NATO, there won't be a UN. I mean, it's all getting cleaned up. And he went there with the peace board already in position and ready to be sworn in. And they were all sworn in. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, got all the paperwork handled. She leaves the stage, he shakes her hands, he leaves the stage. And the people are sitting out there going, what just happened? We're at WEF. What just happened? Did the currencies change? Everybody's looking at each other. So then what happens is,
and oh my gosh, we're at peace.
Yeah. So they want to pay him back. So did you see what they did? They sent all these troops in to say, we're going to protect Greenland. We're going to, and all these troops go there. And President Trump says, if you don't leave Greenland alone, I'm going to put your tariffs to 100%. All of those nations had their army equipment and they were rocking and rolling through the streets in Greenland. They all left within a couple hours of him making the announcement.
And even that having been
stop and leave. Yep.
Even that having been said, the number of troops that some of them sent was, bizarrely small, 16 or 20 people. And they're going to stand up to the U.S. Army. I remember seeing, I think it was Denmark sent some troops in, or somebody sent some troops in. They didn't even have the proper clothing for Greenland this time of year. I mean, they'll freeze to death up there. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's fascinating.
Well, only a few people. There's only a few people in Greenland. I think the maximum population of Greenland has been 30,000 at max. Now that you mentioned the cold, have you noticed President Trump walking toward a mountain with a penguin?
Mm-hmm.
And then every division of our military, all with their backs walking toward, I think, the same mountain in the background with a penguin.
Right.
Okay. It's because of the penguin unit. Have you guys talked about the penguin unit?
Not yet. Not yet. Fill us in on what you know.
Well, the penguin unit is a specific military unit. Now, remember, I think we've gone over this a couple of times when they kept calling him Orange Man.
Mm-hmm.
That was code. And he was wearing like a tanning thing or whatever when he did his speeches, and he had that orange kind of glow.
Yeah,
And people
yeah.
go, why does he do that? Why does he look like that? It's all code. People didn't understand. And I said, God, I don't know what this is. And God said, look at Mandarin unit. These are military units that are being activated by him doing these things. So the Mandarin unit, go ahead and everybody go ahead and do your research too, so you know exactly what it is. It's very thorough. It's very specific, and the examples of how profound these soldiers are will absolutely knock your socks off. I mean, just absolutely knock your socks off. I could give you an example, but we got so much to get into today. So Mandarin unit is the unit who has studied every single warring, fighting option globally. Everything they use in the Far East, everything they use in the Middle East, everything they use everywhere in the world. So they can come up against any type of fight or any kind of battle that they would find themselves in the middle of. They know how to get out of it. And they also know, and one quick example would be when a general sent them to take care of who comes in a gate at 6:00 at night.
Mm-hmm.
And blah, blah, blah. Well, the guy studied it in advance, found out that general was involved in a scheme, and found out who they had to take out, took that person out. They were back at the unit before 6 p.m. And he goes, you were supposed to be at the gate. Why aren't you at the gate? And he goes, sir, we already took care of it. And by the way, you have some people you need to talk to. Do you see what I mean? So that's how brilliant this unit is. So now let's come to the Penguin unit. This Penguin unit, and now people are comparing it with a Penguin Lodge down in Antarctica that Admiral Byrd set up.
Yeah.
But this Penguin unit, the specifics about it we need to know right now is that we're not going to just defend Greenland. We're not going to just defend up in the north in Canada and in Canada, because they're in a whole different kind of winter climate up at that top part of the world.
Right.
And so what this Penguin unit is, it's a unit that's trained on all of the measures, equipment, everything needed when you're in extreme cold conditions. What's Minnesota going into, being right up at the Canadian border where they're battling things now?
Extreme cold. So is Michigan and others. Yeah.
And New York and Maine. Remember, they're now saying, guys, don't forget Maine. Maine's in trouble. And that's why I've been retweeting things and just putting ME for Maine, MN for Minnesota. And that's what I've been doing, because we've got to stay up on these areas. And I want you to know, if you're from Maine, here's what's happening in Maine. It's ME and it's in my Twitter feed. And then here's MN or CA for California. Because when the Somalis were coming against and we were finding out all the daycare stuff and the senior stuff of all the fraud with them in Minnesota, here's California, and the Iranians are in California doing what? Daycares in the 40 and 50 millions. And so I did a California one where a guy did daycares only. I didn't hear anything about him doing senior housing or senior medical, because what they do is they buy these really huge homes and then they put seniors in each of the bedrooms and charge them the fee that they would pay at an assisted living, thousands of dollars each a month. Wow. And so, but again, it's all fraud. And so anyway, it was 42.1 million, I believe. And they caught him out on the street getting into his car. And I forget the brand of the car, but it's a very, very expensive. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollar car where the doors come up on the side and it's all done in unique leathers and everything else. And so anyway, he was getting into his car when they stopped him and asked him about it. But everything we're witnessing ties back to Congress. Everything we're witnessing is because they have the checks. They're giving the money. Why? Because then the money funnels back to them. It's no different than Ukraine, Israel, all these other things that we've been funding. It comes back to them.
And it's coming from us to begin with.
It's coming. All of this is coming from us. All of this is coming from us. And they're the ones that have the ability to keep doing this. This is why President Trump stopped funding sanctuary cities. Did you know? I think I sent the pictures to you. We may have shown it in the last program. Walls, Governor Mansion, has been flying a Somali flag. There isn't an American flag with the Somali flag. It's only the Somali flag because he has compassion for them. And that's
and an investment, probably.
Oh, yeah. They're all connected. In fact, I sent out a picture. This is also on Twitter. I sent out a picture in the last few days. Tim Walz and the gal that's a candidate to be a state senator in Minnesota. I already sent out Lake and Riley no, say her name in capital letters.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I did that, somebody sent me the picture of the woman that she didn't drive over his body. I don't know why you guys are mad. She didn't drive over him. He was able to walk. She didn't drive over his body. And
She
that's
just hit
all
him
the
with her
media
car.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hit him with her car. So then after I sent the picture out, someone studied the rap sheet. And this is also on my Twitter feed. They sent this long rap sheet of this woman. And she's got all of these arrests that she's had. And because of that, somebody knew her, found out she's in a training session on how to take out ICE, how to resist them, how to protest them, and how to destroy them, and ramming cars. Next thing you know, as soon as that goes out, here's a video coming out from the ICE team, and they're showing where people are trying to be stopped and get them out of their vehicles or get them out of the way. If you're not being deported, if you're not being arrested, they're trying to get these vehicles out of the way. And these people start using their own vehicles and ram it backwards and hit an ICE vehicle, ram it forwards and hit another ICE vehicle. And so then when I sent all of that back out, then they said, well, didn't you know who's organizing all these protests? And I'm like, no. I have relatives all over Minnesota, and I've sent all of this out on Twitter feed. And here they are. This woman is running for state senate in Minnesota, right-hand person, tight with Walz. Tim Walz, the governor. And she is the one organizing these and making sure people do the training programs on how to resist and protest and do these things to our ICE agents. She's the organizer of the protests and getting people to take the trainings to know what to do in these protests to come against our ICE agents because it's a sanctuary area.
And to your point, it's not just one area. There's video now that's come out of people going through very similar training, how to battle, literally hand-to-hand combat ICE agents, and they're training them in a church in North Carolina. And then while I know you had other meetings going on through part of last week. During that time, one of the investigative reporters here in Atlanta found a Somali center, a resettlement center, if you will, to assist Somalis finding where they need to be and I guess work and other things down in Clarksville, Georgia. And so this is all over. Now, before we get too far into this, I want to remind folks, and I think it's very critical, that when we see these conflicts, you have to be factoring in this is being created. It's being created by outside influences, by funding, by the bad guys, we'll refer to them as, I guess, outside our best interests, trying to create this, but also trying to narrate for the American public, oh, well, this is the start of, this is us against us. No, it's not. This is not we the people against we the people.
Well, let me tell you about Clarksville. Do you remember in 2015? I think it's in my books, and I think I mentioned it. I had not started the For the Sake of America series yet. God wanted me to go up to the mountaintop and gain a mountaintop perspective because I was leaving. I was done. And then I got the three words from the three people who worked with the three prophets that got the word and vision the same night. And they're from all different parts of the world. Two are Americans, but the other one was from Wales in England. I'm sorry, next to England. It's a separate area, but they consider it England. So it's Wales. And those three men sent their people to give me that word and vision. Well, they knew from God to do that because the three men died within a year of me coming. February 2014 was the first one, and then August was Arthur Burt from Wales, and then John Paul Jackson was in February of 2015. And so by May of 2015, I went to this wedding reception, and the man's was the third one, who was with Prophet Bob Jones, not the Bob Jones University High Noble in the Knights of Pythias, but the other Bob Jones. And when he told me that, I was in tears because it's like, you've sent all three to me? I don't, because they all knew that it happened. And then they were all told, because those men died, how to find me in Georgia to carry this on and tell people about what God was doing for the sake of America. And so that's how all of this started. And where was I sent? I thought to Cornelia, which has the 7 highest points, mountain points, because God said, I'm sending you the mountaintop. And Cornelia has the seven highest mountaintops in Georgia. But when I got there, I wasn't going there. I was going to a town called Baldwin, and I was going to take care of somebody's dog, and I ended up in a house with cats, and I was allergic. And so I'm like, God, this has to be wrong. But it was absolutely perfect because the word Baldwin means stone pile.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these towns are next. I mean, Clarksville is where the bank account is because the man that I met in the prayer session is the senior vice president at the bank in Clarksville. And so when you see what God was trying to warn us about, and now how the infiltrators have done this, and when you mentioned Clarksville, I'm really sorry. I'm going to look at what's happening there and find out what I can do with the people in Clarksville to get that under containment, because it's such a beautiful area. Helen, Georgia, there's all sorts of towns, similar names. There's so many C towns that start with the letter C. It's not just Cornelia and Clarksville, but Baldwin means stone pile. Now, why was it named that? And you guys go ahead just for fun and research Baldwin, Georgia, and pull up their website for the town. Because a woman in Israel sent a note back to the man at the bank and said, there's something you guys need to know. God wants you to know about the meaning of Baldwin, Georgia. And so he sends this to me. He goes, God said, get it to you when he got this email, because this woman in Israel keeps coming back to Baldwin, Georgia, and Clarksville. And so she sent this word to them. Well, I'm on my phone and I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So I called him back and he goes, go all the way to the end. It's like a 42-page document. And I'm scrolling and scrolling. And I get to the end. And so when I got ready to do the book and I said, God, now how am I going to go back and find that document? He said, it's on the website. I'm like, it's on the website. So you look at Baldwin, Georgia, and the description on the very homepage of the website is that when the Cherokee, it was the Cherokee and Creek line in Georgia, and it goes all the way back to the 17th. If you look up the 1777 map, I shared that when we were at the event with General Flynn, October 1 of 23, I think it was, in Georgia, when you and Tammy were there. And when I shared it, it was because that line between those two tribes, Cherokee and Creek, was right at Baldwin. It went through the center of what's now the center of town. And so they built the town around it. But by then, they were all pushed off on the Trail of Tears. So they left what? The Stones of Remembrance. So what it says on the website, and I can only paraphrase because we don't have time to go onto the website today, but what it meant was when the Cherokee were on this land, they were plentiful. And seriously, I'm paraphrasing, but it's pretty close to what it says. And now they are no longer in the area. So the meaning of the stone pile is forever lost. And I shortened it and paraphrased it, but that's the message. But the message is stones of remembrance. And the stones of remembrance, and this is all in book 2 for the sake of America, the stones of remembrance is just like they did when they crossed the Jordan, and they put the stones to say, we were here. We accomplished something. We were here. We did this, because people don't remember. Years later, they don't remember. And to say that the message was forever lost, it's in scripture, what the stones of remembrance mean. So then when I did book 2, God said, well, now you have to tell my people about stones. And I said, stones are stones. And he said, no, they're not in Hebrew. I said, what? And the word stone, and that's why they're guide stones, the Georgia guide stones. They're not guidelines. Mm-hmm. They're not guide rulings or guiding rules, or they're guide stones on purpose, because in Hebrew, stone means the Father, Aleph, the Father, Beta, the Son, and the noun is feminine for the Holy Spirit. And please don't, people right away went, oh, Sheila Holm is calling it Mother God. No, he made us in his image, male and female did he make us. We are him and he is us. We're tight because he is the one who created each of us. And so in male and female did he make them in his image. And people, there's a woman that I know in Georgia that has a book out called about don't try and figure God out, because God has no figure. So the title of the book is God Has No Figure. So he doesn't show up in the midst of having an exact figure. When he came as man, it was Christ who came and was on the earth with us. So that's what goes on. So anyway, the history of Clarksville, and now to look at where it is, because that book came out in 2017, and they had Habersham United Believers, because that's the county, So they
Mhm.
called it hub gathering, prayer gathering. And so they met at noon. And so you would walk in and you would sit down. Nobody would say anything. And whoever was given a prompting of the Father would say part of a prayer or a message. And then as soon as that person was done, whoever was next, and they knew from Father when it was the hour, and they all left and went back to work because that was their lunch hour, but the driving time and everything. And they were that committed to keep this community tight with the Father. So hearing this news, and I'm sorry, Bill, but I think it's important people understand where God built this back before we were fully organized as a nation. And those tribes were there in that exact area. And it was all Cherokee in Clarksville. And the Creek met them at the center line of what's now Baldwin. And so that line is right there. And we've lost who that community is just, wait a minute. But doing it in a church, we've been discussing this, Bill, where that's what Constantine did. He put us into that Gentile worship, and that's
Yep.
why the grooming of the children. So I'm so thankful you brought that up. I didn't know that happened, but I don't know if this is a good point. Maybe we should bring up where I was, that I missed this when I was in Florida for.
Please do. Before
Yeah.
we're done too, I want to spend just a few minutes on things that have happened here
Mhm.
in Georgia just in these last 24, 48 hours.
Mhm.
And then two, as you say, the notion of church has been betrayed, I think I'll call it, by, you use Constantine, the other changes that were made hundreds of years ago, thousands, I guess, technically. There's a couple of things there, and some of that is borne out through things that have happened just in these last 20 years. We'll come back to both of those, but tell us about your travels last week.
Well, there's, I think, a couple of pictures that you might want to bring up. I was down in Florida at a signing or swearing in. They were swearing in 51 people from 24 different countries, and I'd never been officially invited to a swearing in. And so I went down to attend the meeting, and guys, there were a few things that shocked me. This was the meeting. I stood up and took the picture before they started telling people to turn their phones off. And so I got a picture of the 51 people gathering, and you can see their seat numbers all have numbers on them. And they all got certificates based upon their numbers. One of the craziest things that I heard that is very disarming is that when you fill the certificates out now, because we're under a new regime, President Trump did a video, and they said he was just down on Southern, which is 2 blocks away from the swearing in.
Oh,
and we were
really?
able to catch him to get this video. I'm sure they say that to every class that comes through. And so he said, it's not what the president said, it's what the organizers said, who was getting everybody ready and telling them. And then they made sure that they asked, does anyone need any help with all these rules and instructions in Spanish? And by this time, they weren't supposed to be still speaking fluent Spanish, and nobody raised their hand, but there were a lot of Spanish-speaking people there. But
these folks were becoming citizens at this moment, yes.
That moment, I mean, it all happened quickly. They all swear at once. You don't swear in individually anymore. You just raise your hand and the whole room swears. So that's it. But what he was doing was prepping them for it. And he said, we're going to be giving you a certificate today. And you just need to know now we're under a new administration. And so now the rules have changed. And that alerted me to what rules changed. How did immigration change? And he said, you're only going to be able to put 3 names on your certificate, a first, a middle, and a last, because now you're becoming an American citizen. They will not allow you anymore to put any more names on that. Mm-hmm. And whatever name you list as your first name has to stay your first name for the rest of the time that you're a citizen in America. And so I kept thinking of, and this is in Georgia, not California. I knew a lot of people who own businesses and rented out places, rented out homes, rented out apartments, etc. And did you know that they were going ahead because there was pressure, because these people were paying their rent? But here's how they paid it. One time, this was their first name, middle name, last name, but they have like 5 middle names. So then they would come back and do another form with him to have a different first name, middle name, last name. Do you see what I mean? Because all of them sound like first, middle, and last names.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would just keep rotating these names, and some of them were receiving welfare benefits under multiple names.
Oh, one of the ways of
pretty much most of them, because they all
frauding.
knew how to do the same thing. Well, this is happening all across the country. It's happening in California, but I didn't know people who were agreeing to sign these. The reason they were signing them is because that's how they were able to pay the rent.
Mm-hmm. And in some cases, nobody had ever said, no, you can't do this. This is not proper. Yeah.
Right. And you're getting a certificate to live as an American, and you got all these names that they're just keep rotating. And he said, whatever you say your first, middle, and last name is has to now be that name for the rest of time. And then he said, and we want you to know that there's been problems with identity theft. You know, the stuff I've dealt with, identity theft. That's my Nation Restoration book, covers it. Yeah. And I'm doing it in the second edition. And so he said, so please don't hold up this certificate with your certificate number and your name on it, because now instead of their social security number, now their certificate number will be taken over and this will be copied. And he said that you're only this piece of paper. It's a certain kind of paper. And I mean, I'm sitting there just going, this is what we're dealing with in everything in America. You know, It was such a strange thing to be hearing this. The thing that really caught me was it's a new administration, and now they have a new rule. That's a new rule, to only have one first name, one last name with a middle name.
And I bet that many people have not even heard of this until you're now explaining it, because you were there to witness the ceremony and understand what was going on.
There were so many things he said that were disconcerting. So I'm going to see what can be done about it. But it's really frustrating, because the other thing they were saying is, we're sorry it's taken so long to process you, but COVID delayed, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And he said, but what you need to understand is each one of our guys and the people that I was with, they knew, because they heard from the person that they interviewed with. Did you know that they have files on all of the undocumented who want to become citizens? They don't have a green card or anything. They're completely undocumented in America. And they have an immigration file. And those files are from floor to ceiling. Why? Like, why? Why are you working on immigration files for people who are undocumented in America?
Yeah.
And so they said, please, because so you don't know in these 51, how many of these 51 never had a green card, never had any connection with America, and now they're being sworn in. And that's why they have to be very careful to only use 3 names and keep those as your 3 names no matter what you do. You guys, the combination of this, it was a very, very, very unique moment for me. It was all the getting in the building was about, and getting in the room was about half of the time. Giving them the instructions was about a fourth of the time. And then once you gave them the instructions, they stood up, they swore to the oath, and then the message from President Trump. And then there was another picture where it said, I'm an American citizen.
Huh. Now, did these folks seem to take this as seriously as it sounds like it should be taken? When they were swearing to this, they were indeed swearing on.
Yes, some of them were extremely emotional. And some of them were in business suits and didn't really care, just went through the motions.
Yeah.
But the amount of people that were highly emotional probably was a little less than 50%. The person that I was witnessing was extremely emotional, extremely excited, so passionate, so appreciative, but paid the dues and for years, and it's very expensive. You have to have a sponsor. But who's sponsoring the undocumented file people that are coming in and having the same appointments with the same interviewers? There's so much we have to deal with, just so much.
Well, how many people?
And there's so much we have to deal with today, and look what I'm doing. But this was such a big day for me. It just was
Well, it was amazing of you to extend yourself, and so you were sponsoring one of these folks.
No, no,
Oh,
I was personally invited.
wow.
Her husband's sister, he was a sponsor. The husband's sister had just passed away. And when I heard the story, I said, if you need someone to encourage you and get you through these final days of this process, because everything is negative as you go through all the interviews. Everything is like, we don't know. Everything is like, we don't know how long it's going to take. We were going to pencil you in for December 12th. So all of their relatives went and got flights to come in on December 12th and be there for this. And I was going to be there on December 12th. And then they didn't even communicate after they said that was the date. And then boom, it comes January 22. And so now none of the friends and family that flew in for the event in December were able to fly right back and be there for this one. Yeah. But I invested the time because I've never been invited. And I was prompted as soon as he said that. I said, if you want someone to represent for your sister, and I'm very sorry you lost your sister, but the sister had encouraged her through the whole thing and stood with her through this whole thing, and then had just passed away right before the December event date. And so I said, if you want someone to come and stand with you, I'll come. And they were just very appreciative. And it was a very special day for us. And she just couldn't get enough pictures in front of signs where it says, I'm now an American citizen. And they gave them each a little flag. And she was waving the flag the whole time we went to the lunch. And then after we went to the lunch, and so we went to dinner. I mean, she just couldn't get over talking about it and expressing her appreciation. So, because she came from the nation of Turkey. Mm-hmm. And there's some in Istanbul, and it's a tough area. It's tough what's going on there. But her family is there, and they're so happy for her that all this has taken place. It was an amazing day, but I cannot tell you, I got the feeling from everybody that it meant something important to them.
We've heard stories of so many people. I grew up in Florida, and of course, a number of folks ended up in Florida from Cuba and other locations. And as you say, there were some that seemed to take it all in a stride, but there were others that to this day talk about how blessed they felt that they were able to leave a place of threat and harm and desolation and so forth, and come to America and be able to create a life here that was so much more and better than what they grew up with. And those people are still around today. And what I'm sensing is there are people now that are looking at their former homelands. Venezuela is a great example currently. And they want to go back. They want to see their families that they have not been able now to see. And they're praying and hoping that will happen. And just in these last, I think, 12 hours or so, Trump announced that the air corridors above Venezuela are once again open, and he's alluding to the fact that folks can very soon travel back, see their families, and begin to look at I guess I'll term it a sort of a normal cadence of life beginning to return to Venezuela, hopefully, God willing. Gosh, what a wonderful story, and so such a kind thing for you to do to help and sponsor, be there to support these folks.
You just forget it's a 10-hour drive each way. That's without gas stops. Is a 10-hour drive each way to get back to West Palm to make this happen. But so grateful to have heard it all and then see what Father wants me to do about what I heard.
So here in Georgia, we had just an amazing time yesterday. Word came out early afternoon that FBI had approached and was entering the Fulton County election, one of their offices in Fairburn. Now, this isn't the main office, if you will. It's one of the quote-unquote satellite offices, but it's where they have warehousing where ballots and other goods would be stored following an election. And in the course of literally minutes, folks from all over Georgia were responding to this. Several that I know immediately stood up, got their things put together, got in their cars, and traveled to there to be part of witnessing what was going on. And they saw things like this: crime scene tape around the facility, FBI vehicles, FBI personnel, front and back. There's a video I will probably append to our discussion today. I won't take time to show it right now, but it'll be at the end of this video, showing the agents actually entering the facility and bringing in amazing types of equipment. But once you realize what they had to be prepared to do, they didn't know what they were going to face going in here. The things could be locked up behind barred doors, behind chain link fences, behind locked file cabinets. And they took in all the equipment necessary to be able to access everything they were expected to retrieve and bring back based on the court order that caused this to happen. And so our friends got to witness this. They got to have brief discussions with some. I asked if they actually were able to see Tulsi Gabbard, who was there, we are told. And here's a couple of folks that are well known here in Georgia, Jason Frazier and Garland Favorito. Garland is the head of Voter GA, one of the organizations that's been fighting for Georgia's election integrity and election rights for many years now. And they stayed through much of the day and into the evening. And yet here's Tulsi, all in black baseball cap, very understated. And yet they caught her. They didn't see her, but others did. And so she was apparently there and supervising the proceedings. So much is happening here. And it's, in some ways, it almost surprises me. We, based on your discussions with me and others with our common friends, it's felt like the first nut to crack might be, getting Tina Peters freed and everything that she knows beginning to come out. But then it, like many things, here comes a surprise, and the fulcrum, it now appears to be, is this thing going on in Fulton County. So they have retrieved what we are told is hundreds of boxes of ballots and other documentation surrounding the 2020 election. Maybe a lot more, we don't know. But the anticipation now is that this is perhaps the first bastion of uncovering what's really happened. And I think people will find, and you and I both heard this, I believe, that this Fulton is a key, certainly in Georgia, but is just one of hundreds of counties, hundreds of locations that will likely find that fraud was done against the American public, against we the people. And so it was an amazing day, an amazing time to see all this happen.
Have you covered her presentation on the entire structure of Obama?
No, not
the rest of Obama.
Not yet. We've reported when she came out and said that there was evidence against Obama, but please share what you've uncovered.
Well, when she came out and shared that, they have everything they need. And Obama was, in essence, behind everything in these elections in 2016. He was the one behind masterminding all of it, involving all the departments, and the departments cooperated with him. So it wasn't just the agencies, it was the departments and the agencies. And so they have it all. And remember, the president told us, even back in the first term, which is 2017 forward, he told us, we have it all, we caught them all.
I think in light of all of the things going on, and you know what I mean by that, the fake news, the Comeys of the world, all of the bad things that went on. It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it.
Sidney Powell said, release the Kraken. And I think we've already revealed that on our interviews, is that the Kraken is a supercomputer that has all these elections going way back. They know exactly how this fraud has been coming forward and how it's been expanding and how they've done it. And everybody goes, why aren't they arresting anybody? Well, let me tell you, they know exactly who's involved. They're letting them recommit the crimes, because when you are informed about the crimes, because it's always been okay to do what they're doing. They've been doing this for many elections, but our military has the whole thing. And the Kraken is a supercomputer that Obama insisted had to be decommissioned, and our guys on purpose didn't decommission it. It's located out in Oak Ridge, and it's still functioning, and it has all the details. And that's why when Colonel Waldron was questioned in Pennsylvania at the hearing back in 2020, he was saying, what you need to know is that our white hats have everything. And the Pennsylvania guy that was running for governor, I'm not remembering his name right now, but anyway, he said, no, sir, what did you just say? And he said, our white hats have everything. Sir, what did you mean by that? And he said, our white hats have everything. And so I don't know if this was revealed to people, but after 2020 happened, it had to happen. America had to see how bad this is. America had to listen and find out we've had war crimes against us to overtake our nation from other countries, including our Five Eyes allies. And so here we're sitting here and all of this is happening to us and we don't even know. We keep doing these elections and people got a lot of apathy going about the elections. Doesn't matter. They're going to still get their guy in. That's what they were doing. They were going to get him in. And that's why they're replacing you. The replacement theory is now coming out strong. That's why there are so many Somalis to get the original Norwegians that built Minnesota. Don't you know they're the Minnesotans? My dad was Norwegian. So, and I can't do the UFTA golf tournament my cousins are in. It's UFTA golf tournament. And all the jokes are Oli and Lena and Sven and Olga, it just, you can't let go of this once you've been raised Norwegian. And so they built that whole area because it's so much like Norway. It has all these lakes. So you don't have fjords, but you have all these lakes, all this water around and all this cold. And they love that. They love to ski and they love to, cross country as well as, downhill. And so they got all of it in Minnesota. And so now for this to have happened, but look at the attention. We never had attention on the north border, but I can tell you there's a lot of Somalis running San Diego. There's a lot of Somalis running the meat plants in Nebraska. I mean, everywhere I've been in my life and have family, there's Somalis running businesses and et cetera that shouldn't even be here. So with all of this going on, what did our guys do in every election? They were there. So after they committed the crimes the first time, they committed them the same way the second time in 22. They committed them the same way in 24, but by 24, they'd already had just the tip of the iceberg out in the 2,000 Mules, wasn't it?
2,000 Mules came out in late 22, if I recall correctly, early 23.
Yeah. So then they prepared them and let the world know what was going on and who got caught. But they didn't say everybody that got caught. They said they gave examples. Mm-hmm. And that's all they did because it was rampant. Okay. So what happens when we come to the 2024 election? Our military guys, when you opened a warehouse to get these billets out, like what they're talking about now, our guys were inside waiting for you to commit the crime because you've now learned 3 times, you've been warned, these are crimes. And they lead to sedition, treason, because in treason, the difference is one word, knowingly. Mm-hmm. You knew the crime, you knew the implications of the crime, you knew the consequences of the crime, and what did you decide to do? You decided to commit the crime. So you committed the crime knowingly. So if you think this is all stretching out, the thing is, every one of these people involved from Somalia has people in America who are legal Americans that are making all this happen and making sure they have the funds. Why? Because it's a money laundering process, everything they have them involved in. So they're providing housing for them. We're paying it. We're paying all these bills.
And for everything, it seems. Yeah.
And then the money flows. It's a racketeering process. And that's why, I don't know if you covered, Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel said, we're very close to doing the cases against the entire Congress. But it's not just entire Congress. It's all the lobbyists. It's all the handlers, all the
entire Democratic Party. Yeah, they called that the entire Democratic Party.
Not just Democratic Party. Two of the main ones are Cory Booker and Rand Paul. And so when you look at the list of names that they've got, it's all the cross, because we've already said it's a uniparty. It doesn't matter because they're all in the society and they're chosen and positioned, and we've never had a word to say about it. And this has gone on since before Lincoln. Lincoln started the Republican Party, was started in 1854 because they did compulsory school education and they were indoctrinating the children already. And so they started the Republican Party in Ripon, R-I-P-O-N, Wisconsin in 1854. And what happens? They bring in Lincoln as a president. And then they're not going to put up with him because he's going to follow the Bible. He was a Bible believing, Bible reading man. And that he was going to bring us back to that. They couldn't let him stay in. And then when he got reelected in 42 days into his second term, he was assassinated by the high nobles and the Knights of Pythias. The guys who are able to go back to Lincoln, and other bodies were put up on the gallows and hung. And so none of their games have changed. None of their games have changed. And the whole control over us has been from the very, very beginning. So I'm so grateful for this time we've had together today, and we should do this. We should do this again soon, because there's so much that we didn't get into today that we need to get into. But I have to jump.
Well, there will be more, I'm sure, and I appreciate very much you making time to be with us, as you say.
Well, and let's do it again. I don't know if you want to do it on the standard of a Thursday, because a Thursday pretty much almost always works for me.
Well, let's try to do that. We had talked about trying to do one a special format, perhaps in the not distant future. We'll try to do that. Just before we break, I wanted to show this to you. You brought up Sidney Powell, and just today, Ed Martin posted this photo with Sidney Powell. He's been posting a photo each day saying, "Good morning, America. How are you?" And
there you go.
There's Sidney Powell. And I thought, how interesting that would be today. So
release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken. Thanks so much for being with us. We will look forward to having you back very soon.
I got to know one thing. Did you ever know the movie? Everybody said it was a movie about an octopus. We got to look that up. I never looked it up, because it's not about that. It's about the supercomputer. And everybody goes, "No, Sheila, it's about the octopus. It's a famous movie." And I'm like, I don't know. There is
a video or a picture like that. As a matter of fact, they used the octopus symbol on one of David Clemens' movies, Let My People Go. So we'll do a little research. We'll talk about that next time.
Awesome. Well, blessings upon you. And you guys, thank you for being so gracious with us and keeping us going and updating you, so that guys, we got to unite as believers and as people in America. If we the people want an America, we've got to unite against what's going on. We've got to unite. They've divided us every way they can. We've got to unite. Bless you.
That's right. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much, Sheila.